All right, welcome to episode number 9 of the SoCal series, and we're here back at the Barstow Bowl because we got another track that's basically full. It's these cars right here tagged for Fresno. And you can see they're pretty much at the end, so they need to be pulled out so that we can send more trains over the hump, because if we keep it in there and it overflows, it'll mess everything up. And here's the 2 trim units right here, so you could fire these up and then grab that cut. And then it needs to be put over here in the north departure yard on track number 4. So it's got to be pushed, it's got to be shoved all the way to the end of this track right here, number 4. Over at the San Bernardino intermodal yard, we got train 4954. It's actually got mixed container, or it's got containers and loaded auto racks on the front half. So the containers, well, let me take a look at the back. Let me show you, because the back it's too long. You can see it's hanging off the ramp and it's going all the way out over there to the, it's not on a main line, but it's too long. So it needs to be pulled forward so that all the containers fit on the end of the ramp here. And then the containers can be left here. And then these auto racks, see all these auto racks we got? All these auto racks need to be pulled forward, and they're going over to the B yard on track 652, which is over here. Right here, this track here, 652. So they just need to be dropped there, and then once they're dropped, the locomotives can come back over to the A yard and be put on track number 201, which is this one right here. And lastly on the list, but definitely not least, we got our first supply trains pulling into the West Colton receiving yard for Union Pacific. And this one here needs to be sent over the hump. So these DPUs got to be pulled off, and they need to be sent all the way over here to the locomotive storage yard. And they need to be put on this track right here. And then after that's been done, these two will be pushing back. You can do it yourself, or you can tag it as hump and do an AI recrew and make sure your switches are lined up. And you're going to send this one over the hump so these can all get sorted. This will be the first. This is exciting. This is the first UP train going over the hump in West Colton in the SoCal series. Before we get started, I also want to just show you real quick the current status of my SoCal operations spreadsheet. So if I clear the filters here and just do A to Z. So we got 2 trains en route. We got both mixed freight coming to Barstow. And then over on UP, we've got just this one here. We got North Platte, Nebraska to West Colton mixed freight. That's currently en route. And then you can see here, we've spawned 4 trains so far. 4 supply trains. Well, actually, one of them was a mixed intermodal. So 3 mixed freight supply trains for industries for Union Pacific. And then BNSF, we've got all these. So if I actually, let me just do that. We've got 17. Wow, I didn't realize it was that many already. Oh, but they're not all mixed freight, though, because there's an intermodal and mixed containers. We had 2 bear tables, a grain train. So, yeah, it's not. If I switch here to unselect all these and just only select mixed freight, we've had 11. Okay, that makes sense. That's what I thought it was. 11 mixed freight trains with freight tagged for industries. Then I want to also show you over here, I made a BNSF supply trains tab and a UP supply trains tab. And what I'm doing there is I'm utilizing the XML maps. I think I'm going to explain how this works on a different spreadsheet, how to do this. I mean, on a different video. But basically, This allows me to import all this data from the saved train files. So every time I create a supply train and when I spawn it into the map, then I add it into here. So it's got the status. So this blue means it's been sorted at the hump already. And this is just the car sequence. This is train number 1, the first supply train we did. Order number 1. So for these customers, this is their first order on this map we're doing. So all these different tags here, this is the first order. And you'll see in the future how I'm figuring this is going to help. I could be wrong, but having these order numbers, so then I know what I'll be able to do is once we keep spawning in more and more supply trains, I'll be able to say like, all right, JRR. I could go up here and I could go filter by cells value. And you can see right here now, these are train 1. There's also cars on train 3, train 7, and train 12. All have cars for JRR, and it's part of the first order. So I need to wait for these trains to come in. Like this one hasn't been humped yet. This one's still on the road because it says in transit, it's green. So I can look at this handy tool and see like, oh, I can't work this industry yet, this local job, because I need to wait for these other trains to get in until I get the whole first order together. Then I can work this local. So I can just clear that back out. So you saw there, like I just have them tagged. I got some conditional formatting. So depending on what I type here, it changes the color of all this. So like receiving, this is in the receiving yard at, this is Barstow. This is a BNSF train. If it's in transit, then it's this green. And actually this one still needs to be spawned. So this one's, I haven't even dropped into the map yet, but I created it completely enough so I can just add it to the spreadsheet. So anyways, that's what I'm doing there. So that way I can kind of keep track and hopefully it works how I'm envisioning, but we'll find out. We're going to put it to the test. All right, let's get started with the first job. So we're over here in the Barstow Bowl and we got to pull this track here. All these cars are going to Fresno. And as you can see, this track's almost full, so we can't send any more trains over the hump until these get pulled out. So I can come over here to the bowl switchers and get these fired up. Now I just need to make sure I got my switches aligned to get onto that track with the Fresno cut. As we get more supply trains coming in, you can see this map is slowly starting to fill up, but we really have a long way to go. Really just a gorgeous day here at the Barstow Yard. All right, now I can just use F7 to hook up these air hoses, get everything filled up with air, and then I'll F5 to pull the parking brakes, and then we can start pulling this cut out of here. Now I need to make sure that these switches are going the right way. I need to go straight here, and then straight here, because I got to be able to pull far enough to clear, and then I can back onto the north departure yard track. I just pulled the brakes off, and we should start rolling forward here because it is downhill out of here. Even though up at the top it says grade plus 0.4%, but I think that's I think that's because we hadn't really started moving yet. It didn't register because it should be downhill out of here. All these cars are going to be heading up to the Callaway yard in Fresno. Got to make sure to flip this switch back once he's clear. They really did a nice job on that Barstow Amtrak station there in the background. Now, as soon as the rear clears that switch right there, then we'll stop the train and I can back it up through this crossover and then towards the north departure yard. Now I'll put it in reverse, but I'm going to need a few notches because now we're pushing back up the hill. So it's going to take a little more effort. You know what? I need to take a look at the dispatch screen because we got to make sure that the track, I'm lined up for the right track. So let's put them on track number 4 on the north departure yard. And I can just shove him all the way down to the end because he's going to be heading out the other end there that we're pushing to because this is going westbound. As you can see here, these departure tracks are extremely long, and it does take quite a while just to get from one end to the other. We're finally at the end, and now I can bring this one to a stop, and then I'll cut off these locomotives. See all that slack bunching back up because we're not on flat ground? Let's take a look at our tags here. It looks like, yeah, these ones with the FRS and then they got a KIN. That's Kings Park, which is not really a yard. It's kind of like just a few siding tracks up in Bakersfield, on the Bakersfield subdivision. So those will go to Fresno, and then they'll move up there, and then that's where that local job will be worked from. So now I can just uncouple these two, and I'll send them back to where they normally sit, waiting for another cut to pull out. And then we got to make our way over to San Bernardino, where we've got a container train that needs to be split apart, and some auto racks on that train that need to be moved to the B yard. All right, this was actually a mixed intermodal train, so it's got containers on the back half, but it also has auto racks on the front half for the auto yard over here. So I just got to get the switches lined up, and I got to pull forward enough because we're currently hanging quite a ways off the back of the ramp. So I got to pull up forward enough to get the entire back of the train, all those containers on the ramp so they can be unloaded. And then we're going to cut it. And then we'll bring the auto racks over to the B yard just for now. So here you can see the back of the train is still hanging off quite a bit. So I just got to get that last car onto the ramp. This train came over from Alliance, Texas. All right, we're just about onto the ramp, so I can bring her to a stop here. And I just know I'm going to have to back up a little bit now that I got the handbrake set, because there's just going to be too much stretch force here on this coupler. For having several handbrakes set on these containers, I'm surprised how much it's moving. Now I just got to get into the dispatch screen over to Cajon here, and I need to give myself a restricting into the B yard. right, I can bring her to a stop right here. So all these auto racks are just going to be dropped here temporarily, and then in a future episode, we're going to have to shift them across to the other side, to the auto yard. Now these locomotives are going to head back to the A yard and be put on track 201. And while that's happening, let's head over to West Colton because we got our first supply trains have showed up. All right, we're over here looking at the West Colton receiving yard, Union Pacific, with a beautiful sunset. And we've got a few supply trains in the yard, and we're going to be sending our first one over the hump here. So the first thing we got to do is come over here and pull these rear DPUs off. So I'll set this one as a lead unit, and then I got to pull off the handbrakes just on the locomotives. And when the AI relinquished, all the handbrakes are set on the entire train, so I know the cars aren't going to go anywhere. And I also want to make sure there's no EOT on this train. And let me just check the other end just to be sure here, make sure there's, because we don't want to split it if there's an EOT, and it looks like there isn't, so that's good. So now I'll bring it to a stop real quick and then take a look at the dispatch screen and make sure that I got my switches lined up. So we're right here on track 109, and I just need to get these over to the diesel and rail car facilities. So let's fly up in the air real quick and just see that we got our switches lined up, what routing we're going to take. So we want to go straight through here. We're going to be coming in on the right. We'll go past the administration office, past the car repair tracks, and this is the locomotive storage here, right there next to the shop. And those three right in front of us are the repair tracks. So I need to bring these down to just one of these tracks right here. I think I'll put them on this one here on the end. And that's perfect right there. We can put the handbrakes on and shut these down, and then we'll head back to the other end of our train, and we'll get the AI sending it over the hump. Shoot, I forgot to turn the headlights off. All I gotta do is just take control again and then turn them off. Okay, we're back to the front of the train, and I just gotta make sure this is set up right, because the AI had relinquished, so it was just still running. And it looks like we're good to go. I think I just gotta put the hump tag on the lead. So now I just got to put hump here, and then I'll just let the AI take over and run it for me. And there we go. Now they'll start pushing it backwards. But I got to make sure that I got the tracks lined up correctly to get to the hump yard. And it gets a little confusing here at the West Colton yard because these switches, you got this N or R. I don't even know what that means. N maybe is neutral or maybe like natural. And the R is probably stands for reversed. I gotta tell you, Run 8 looks fantastic at night. And I think I'll just let the camera roll for a couple minutes here, just watching these cars go over the hump. But that's going to end episode number 9. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for episode 10.